we go. So thank you, Sandra. Thank you, GBBC. My name is Matt Keller. I work with the Algorand Foundation. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's spoken before me. So many people have said so many interesting things so well that, as Sandra said in the beginning, we need to get to scale on some of this. And when you listen to what people say, you wonder, why aren't we there already? Because the efficacy and the value, as Dale outlined so eloquently as the first speaker, is so crystal clear to me that you know that it's inevitable. You're listening to you, Lucian, and you know that the inevitability is there. And hopefully this use case I'm going to present makes that even clearer. So just a little quick background on Algorand. It started in about 2017 by Professor Silvio Macaulay at MIT. He's a Turing Award winner, and basically surveyed the landscape at the time, and Bitcoin was the predominant layer one, which is hugely energy consumptive, and wondered, could there be another way to build a layer one that was not so energy consumptive, that had sustainability and greenness kind of as part of its DNA? And so developed something called the Pure Proof of Stake protocol, which is what Algorand is, and we have been around for about 6 years now. I'm with the Algorand Foundation, the functionality of, just very quickly, I won't go into details, 0.001 algos per transaction, 10,000 transactions per second, no downtime. Security is extraordinary, and again, as I said, the low energy consumption piece was a game changer at the time. It's no longer novel, but at the time it was, and a lot of layer ones that have come subsequent to that kind of copied that protocol. So what we do, and because that sustainability element is part of our DNA, we focus a lot on impact, on what can we do, what can we invest in that makes a difference in a few areas of specificity. One is financial inclusion. Financial inclusion is this broad term, but if you think about the details, 1.7 billion people in the world are unbanked. That means they have no access to banking institutions or their services. Environmental sustainability. What is it about this technology that can expand and expedite the use of, for example, carbon credits and other things that have not been very effective in the past, but because of the proof of provenance that was talked about earlier regarding how blockchain can work, some of those things can be made better. Social impact is another example, which is kind of social impact writ large. We've invested in a company out of Ireland called AidTech that has built, to your point, Professor, a disaster wallet, a survivor's wallet, so that when disaster strikes, you've got a wallet that is connected with various aid organizations, the Red Cross, St. Vincent de Paul Society, National VOAD, and others. And the resources that you need are delivered relatively instantaneously. And I say relatively instantaneously because right now, when you look at the disaster relief efforts in the United States, it's actually, and I learned about this in the last year because we invested in this company, it's kind of mind-boggling. A disaster hits, and it's between like 9 and 18 months you wait before you get the relief that you need. I mean, it's almost a paper-based system based on Excel spreadsheets. It's unbelievable. So we've invested in the Care Wallet. We're going to pilot that in Florida in the first quarter of 24. What does that mean? It means that aid is delivered fast. It means that transactions are on chain. They're indelible. They're immutable. Every granting organization can see every payment made, and the efficacy of it is going to blow away what exists now. And so how do we attain those? We kind of engage in thought leadership. We're holding an impact summit in India, November 30th and December 1st, focused exclusively on how does blockchain enable entrepreneurs and others building for financial inclusion, social impact, and environmental sustainability. And when you look at it, there are a lot of people out there doing this. And so we're doing that. We have this buildable hackathon where impact is a significant track. We engage particularly in West Africa, and we're expanding our partnerships for humanitarian and disaster aid relief. So the case study I wanted to talk a little bit about and it's a company that we invested in Afghanistan, kind of backed up by a report done by the London School of Economics, is a case study in payments, cash-based assistance by a company called Hasab Pay. And I got really, when I started at Algorand, I was really interested in this. We found these guys and had extensive talks with them. I'd spent time in Afghanistan in 2010 and 11 working on a technology project out of the MIT Media Lab called One Laptop Per Child, which was a kind of big deal at the time. It failed in many ways, it succeeded in many ways, but we were trying to get literally every child in Afghanistan a connected laptop. And I worked very closely with General McChrystal on the funding part of that, and it didn't work out, but I learned a lot. And one of the things I learned from McChrystal was that 100% of the Afghani Defense Forces were illiterate. 100% were illiterate. And you look at those stats and some of the police stats and some of the societal stats on access to food, access to education, literacy rates. Even back then, you thought this is a crisis waiting to happen. And sure enough, a couple of years ago, that crisis began to take shape in a profound and disturbing way. And so if you look at the numbers, 97% of the people in Afghanistan live below the poverty level. Almost 20 million people are in danger of food insecurity. That's half the population. Roughly 5 million children face severe hunger and prolonged malnutrition, which results in stunting, which is a lifelong malady that can really never be overcome. I spent a number of years working with the United Nations World Food Program, and one of the things you see in many places is when you lack those micronutrients as a child, the rest of your life is determined as a result. So Afghanistan is imploding. It simply is. Sanctions, frozen assets, a paralyzed banking sector, and a real shortage of physical currency, and currency which exists is damaged beyond use, is prevalent. Lack of trust, lack of access. There are 27 million phones in Afghanistan. There are 9 million smartphones, which is not surprising given the growing ubiquity of smartphones in much of the developing world, whether you're in rural Rwanda or rural Afghanistan or Ethiopia or any of the places I've worked in my life. The growing use of smartphones is real, as we all know. Lack of access is a major issue. So Hasab Pay is a payments-based company that really works with the United Nations and other aid agencies to transfer value, money, from point A to point B across the Algorand blockchain rails. And it works by digitizing the Afghan fiat currency based on fiat deposits, and they settle those transactions on the Algorand blockchain. And so what's happening is that because there's a failed banking infrastructure and because only 6% of the population has access to any bank anyway, something is taking its place. There's a void that's being filled here, and it's being filled by these digital payment infrastructures, which we support, Hasab Pay being the biggest one. So it's a multi-chain payment solution. It's instant fund transfers, bill payments, merchant payments. People spend a few cents here and a few cents there to get airtime minutes. They spend a few more cents for rated electricity that times out at a certain time. They spend a few more cents, all done from their phone in this case. They can also use QR codes. And what's happening is merchants are more and more accepting the digital currency because that's the only game in town. So the digital currency is being accepted now by over 1,500 merchants, largely in cities, Kandahar, Kabul, but growing to rural parts of the country as well. So people pay their electricity bills via the phone or a QR code. People explain, they go out, the staff goes out and explains to people, how this works. Let's see, I had a video here. I can play it.
Yes, you're good at...
Oop. Let's see.
Your job, but your processes, though... With money.com...
All right, that's not it. Anyway, the video shows, and what's I think particularly important is hang on here. Let me X out of this. Anyway, the video shows, which is particularly important, is that there are women who come out with their phones and get trained in various places in Kabul and Kandahar, again, in metropolitan areas, where they are taught how to use the applications. And it's a very quick process. So you have Hasab Pay staff in 34 different offices around the country who are charged with disseminating the application both virtually and in real time. And so what happens over time, and this started only a couple of years ago, you've got hundreds of thousands of people now who have availed themselves of this application. And so what that means is that you have the beginning of a movement that is going to get to scale relatively soon. And so what does that mean for direct aid in Afghanistan when over 90%, 97% unemployment, okay? So the only game in town is receiving cash assistance and in-kind assistance from United Nations agencies. So what, for example, the World Food Program does in Afghanistan is when they have cash disbursements, they call them events. People all come together and they get stuff. They get cash. They get in-kind contributions. And so what the London School of Economics did, supported by the Open Society Foundation, was they did a randomized controlled trial of 2,500 women. They followed them for 7 months, and they found several extraordinary things happened. When women received payment via the Hasab Pay app, they were more likely to spend it on their families. There were fewer skipped meals. There was less theft. There was less corruption, okay? And maybe most importantly, there was less violence against women as they came from these events where they were handed cash, hard cash, big wads of bills, walking through the streets, and where that was taken from them. That no longer happens as a result of this platform. Every contribution is indelibly recorded on chain. It's seamless, it's secure, and it's secure because it's decentralized, and it's decentralized, which makes it secure, which means it can scale. And so what we're going to do in the coming year is focus on payments as part of our impact emphasis. We are going to work with Hasab Pay in Syria, hopefully in Iraq, Somalia, Yemen, Libya. Think about places where the banking infrastructure has been kind of torn apart, where people don't have access to those services. And the question is, how can we help them get this to scale? And we think it'll happen. The United Nations World Food Program, again, is just finishing a pilot of 5,000 families. They are extending that to 125,000 families in 2024. What you're going to see is that's going to happen, as the London School of Economics report indicates, because the cost savings is so great by using these platforms, and because the threat of violence is limited as a result, and because there are fewer skipped meals, and because there is less corruption, and because every agency knows where every single dollar ends up, this is the future of delivery, of aid assistance delivery. So that's the case study. You know, we're really proud of that. We are going to have them, and it's a big part of our Impact Summit in India. The founder, Sanzar Kakar, is half Afghani, half American, lives in Dubai, travels to Afghanistan and works with the Taliban government, which one has to do. And it has been a success that has surpassed my greatest hopes when we looked at these guys a little over a year ago. And, you know, I'll close. I know, Professor, you're talking about the future and, you know, the calamities that will certainly occur, particularly when it comes to climate change and other things. But, you know, I look at some of these entrepreneurs like Sanzar, who developed Hasab Pay, and, you know, others that we invested in, whether they're from Zimbabwe or from Latin America, tokenizing behavioral change when it comes to public transportation choices. You know, these are people who are building for a future using technology that is available right now, that is having a profound impact in many parts of the world, and will have a profound impact in many parts of the world as time goes by. So I look at these entrepreneurs like Sanzar, and I think to myself that, you know, I'm optimistic, because technology, as you all know, is morally neutral. How do you use it? What do you use it for? You can use a phone to blow up a building, or you can use a phone to give health advice 7,000 miles away. And so I look at these people, and I'm lucky to be at a foundation where impact is the core of what we do, and that impact translates into real change for the most marginalized people on earth. Thank you.